Alright, hope everybody's doing well. Welcome to another Fix Your Gut live stream. I'm your host, John Brisson. Here we have the Fix Your Gut website. You can click this button right here where it says download the Optimal Health Blueprint to get a copy of supplement recommendations for both males and females. Of course, I'll offer gut health coaching and more. Jason Hooper, of course, offers health and fitness coaching and more. You can get a copy of Fix Your Gut. We are offering Frontline Performance's liposomal glutathione. It is the best liposomal glutathione on the market. It might be the only liposomal glutathione on the market that actually works. Using the old bulletproof formula, you can use the code FixYourGut for 10% off. Definitely good stuff. I have some in my fridge. I use it for time to time. One of the main probiotics that we recommend here at Fix Your Gut is Smidge. There's no histamine-producing strains. There's no D-lactate-producing strains. Relatively safe to take. Not to say that everyone who takes it sees benefit or doesn't have any adverse reaction to it. However, with Smidge, it is less likely. And it's highly recommended. I've used it myself. I've given it to many clients with great success. So today's video is going to be on the laxative medication Miralax, which is polyethylene glycol. And why here at Fix Your Gut we do not recommend the use of Miralax, especially for a laxative, which is commonly used for. So let's begin. The Center for Disease Control reports on average a doctor will see 50 patients each day. Each patient will average 8 minutes with their doctor, and 88% are prescribed medications. The patient leaves the doctor's office, visits a nearby pharmacy, and gets a prescription filled, often without consultation. Is 8 minutes enough time to adequately research the medication's risks and benefits, disseminate the data to the patient, and collectively evaluate whether the medication is the right choice? Whether we like it or not, that is the state of the United States healthcare system, and it puts a lot of pressure on doctors to spend less time with their patients and use psychological tactics like intimidation to slap a quick fix on their problems and send them on their way. Laxatives are medications that soften stools, increase intestinal muscular contractions, which are timed by our migrating motor complex, and or bulk up stools, making them easier to pass. Laxatives can be taken in oral form or taken as a suppository. They're usually safe if used for a short period, but if they become habitual, they can cause intestinal muscular atrophy, electrolyte imbalances, inflammation of the intestinal lining, dysbiosis, dehydration, acid-base imbalance, pancreatitis, kidney failure, and if severe enough, death. Hyperosmotic laxatives work by allowing more water to be retained in the colon, and they also can increase colonic peristalsis. So peristalsis is the rhythmic muscular contractions in your digestive tract that push the food that you ingest along. Of course, when it's in the colon, it's fecal matter by that point. Miralax, polyethylene glycol, is one of the most commonly prescribed hyperosmotic laxatives. Though hyperosmotic laxatives are likely looked upon as less habit-forming, there are still side effects associated with their use. Chronic water retention may cause electrolyte imbalances and dehydration, especially with overdoses and chronic use. Polyethylene glycol, the active ingredient in Miralax, is a synthetic chemical believed to have a low toxicity in humans. Polyethylene glycol is generally recognized as safe by the Food and Drug Administration, FDA, and the medical community, although it is known to cause bloating, nausea, gas, and diarrhea. Those are common side effects associated with its use, by the way. Our immune system is also reacting positively, negatively to polyethylene glycol ingestion more than previously thought. Anti-polyethylene glycol antibodies were detected in approximately 72% of the population never treated with polyethylene glycol-containing medications like Miralax, based on plasma samples taken during the 1990s. In addition, the FDA reported finding trace amounts of ethylene glycol and diethylene glycol, which is antifreeze, in all 8 batches of polyethylene glycol 3350 laxatives that it tested. These chemicals might be byproducts from the manufacture or breakdown of polyethylene glycol 3350, which is Miralax. We know ethylene glycol and diethylene glycol are toxic in large amounts. However, the FDA allows trace amounts in medicines and even foods because small amounts aren't harmful, so they say. Still, their presence raises concerns when a product is used long-term. So is the frequent use of polyethylene glycol as safe as many professionals believe? Miralax sadly has serious side effects linked to its use, including nephrotoxicity, so there are case reports of kidney issues, kidney inflammation, kidney failure, neuropsychiatric events. You actually, if you Google neuropsychiatric events in Miralax, you'll come across many articles that talk about neuropsychiatric events in children who take Miralax. There was a study that was put out in 2019 that said, well, it's probably just from these media statements, these news stories. That's why you're probably seeing the increase of neuropsychiatric events being reported in the news, the medical community, and parents' apprehension is just because they don't really trust Miralax. They don't trust this Miralax is used in children. So it's really just that. However, I show that as of back in the early 2010s, the Food and Drug Administration, the United States Food and Drug Administration, were getting reports of neuropsychiatric events with Miralax, even though at that time they had deemed that nothing needed to be done. So it's not, the frenzy of people, learning about it and Googling it and it popping up on the internet and seeing that there, lawsuits, the parents have filed against Pfizer. No, not Pfizer. Who makes Miralax? Hold on. I'll make sure. Who produces Miralax? Look it up. Sorry, I should have known that. Bayer. So, I don't know why I said Pfizer. But people bringing lawsuits against Bayer for their children having neuropsychiatric events. So is it because of the use of Miralax? Is it because Miralax contains antifreeze contaminants like ethylene glycol, and that they can be neurotoxic to the brain? Is it, because the child has dysbiosis, which could worsen from taking Miralax and changes, the breakdown of their microbiome? Who really knows the cause? But it does seem like there's enough evidence that it is causing neuropsychiatric events, especially in children. So that's sad. Anaphylaxis, hives, and other histamine intolerance issues. Mallory-Weiss tears. Now, Mallory-Weiss tear occurs when you vomit and your esophagus gets tears in them. So there's some people who are allergic to Miralax or have issues with ingestion of Miralax that causes them to vomit. They get severely nauseous. They end up tearing their esophagus. Fecal incontinence. So yeah, it's osmotic laxative. That's with any osmotic laxative to some degree, right? Let's be honest here. Even if you took too much vitamin C or magnesium, which are both osmotic laxatives, same thing could occur. You might have to run to the bathroom. You might have diarrhea. Gut dysbiosis, which, any osmotic laxative when taken too much can cause gut dysbiosis. Same with increased gut permeability or leaky gut. It's because the gut junctions open up to allow the exchange of electrolytes and ions and water, and in doing so, more water flows into the colon, so the gut junctions become more leaky. So increased gut permeability and dysbiosis and fecal incontinence could happen in other osmotic laxatives. However, I would assume that the other osmotic laxatives actually serve a purpose in the human body. You just have to titrate the dosage down once you get those side effects. Miralax serves no purpose in the human body. However, vitamin C and magnesium, very much, you need them. They're vitamin C is a necessary vitamin, and magnesium is a necessary mineral, essential mineral. So you need those to survive. You need those for homeostasis. Vitamin C is important for immune function. It's an antioxidant. It's important for collagen production. Utilization. Magnesium is important for insulin utilization and reduction of glutamic acid formation in the brain and production of GABA, and important for many different enzymes in the human body. So, yeah, if you're going to use an osmotic laxative, it's safer, likely, to use magnesium or vitamin C. Intestinal inflammation, dehydration, electrolyte imbalances. Granted, that can come from using, or abusing osmotic laxatives of any kind. Worsen cardiac arrhythmia, usually from electrolyte imbalances. And seizures, even if people would previously had not had seizures, likely from electrolyte imbalances caused by Miralax. Polyethylene glycol was originally FDA approved only to be used for 7 days at most in adults, but is now used daily by many people, even children. Polyethylene glycol is not approved for use in children. In 2009, an FDA Drug Safety Board raised more concerns about its long-term use because polyethylene glycol has not been studied extensively recently for long-term use. Polyethylene glycol also has multiple interactions with many medications. And you can click that link there to see what medications Miralax interacts with and whether you should talk to your doctor if you're taking those medications, if you should take Miralax. Finally, the allergic reactions, some quite severe, occurring from the Pfizer and Moderna COVID-19 vaccines might be from polyethylene glycol within the liposome used to encapsulate the COVID-19 spike protein messenger RNA. I do not believe polyethylene glycol should be used as often in people because there are better ways to relieve constipation, including ingesting prebiotics, using a squatty potty, maintaining proper hydration, and proper magnesium supplementation. As long as you do not get diarrhea from supplementation of magnesium, which is a sign of too much of an osmotic effect from taking the magnesium. So yeah, there's things that can be done for constipation that don't require the use of Miralax. One would be, the use of targeted prebiotics or probiotic supplements. You can try a smidge, see if it helps you out, increases your motility if you're constipated. You could maybe try acacia fiber, which is one of the most gentle soluble fibers, and see if that helps. Or use 2FL, which is Hologos, 2-fructose-cellulose as a prebiotic to see if maybe that helps increase the concentrations of good bacteria in your gut, which produce serotonin. And of course, serotonin, when the microbes produce serotonin, your gut muscles contract, which moves that peristalsis along. It's one of the functions of serotonin in the digestive tract. Using a squatty potty, we weren't designed to sit on the porcelain throne to use the bathroom. It puts too much pressure on the puborectalis muscle. So squatty potty is relatively cheap. You can get one for about $20 or $30, or you could just lift your legs up when you use the bathroom, or put some books down. Put some books down to elevate your knees upwards to kind of make you squat, because that's how human beings we're designed to use the bathroom. We're designed from squatting. That's how we used the bathroom when we were kids. We squatted when we had diapers. So if you put too much pressure on the puborectalis muscle over time, it can weaken. So motility slows down. Dehydration can lead to constipation. We need adequate amounts of water to soften the stool to make it easier to pass through the digestive tract. And proper magnesium supplementation or vitamin C supplementation has a slight osmotic laxative effect, can also help move the stool around the digestive tract. If you're dealing with chronic constipation, sometimes it can be caused by a single-celled organism called archaea that produces methane in the digestive tract. And some people with methane SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth syndrome, or actually with methane, it would be small intestinal archaea overgrowth syndrome. They might have to reduce that archaea dysbiosis or relieve the archaea dysbiosis. And so the person would have better motility. So, if you're dealing with constipation for a long time, just contact me. Get a coaching session. I'll help you. I'll do my best to help you. Now, sometimes if a person's been constipated for 30 to 40 years, that can start causing structural issues of constipation that sometimes, sadly, cannot be fixed because this person's just been constipated for so long. That's not always the case, though. Those above recommendations of using prebiotics, squatty potty, maintaining proper hydration, proper magnesium supplementation, they're much safer for long-term use. At your next doctor's visit, make sure that you get the most out of your 8 minutes. Do not let them fast talk you and push you out the door. If a doctor gives you a prescription for Miralax, ask them about some of the constipation relief tips given above. Now, of course, eating a healthy diet. Some people do better with fiber. Some people don't do as well as with fiber. Depends on a person's microbiome, of whether the microbiome is able to efficiently break down fiber or digest it to some degree or degrade it or turn it into stool. So some people, when they increase their fiber consumption, their constipation decreases as long as they get enough water in. For other people, it can actually make it worse. Their microbiome is not able to, properly break down the fiber, or at least turn it into stool. The human body really doesn't have the enzymes necessary to break down a lot of plant matter that we ingest. We rely on our microbiome to do that. So it depends. There's such thing as a fiber menace. That's what they call. Sometimes you increase fiber, constipation improves. Sometimes you increase fiber and constipation worsens. So you got to be careful with that. It's not a one-size-fits-all. Everybody's different. Their microbiomes are different. Their functioning of their motility from a structural standpoint is different. Their immune systems are different within their gut. The amount of neurotransmitters that they're producing in their gut is different. So what may help someone may not help another person. So let's look at the study as far as dysbiosis and Miralax. Let's see if we can pull that study up. I want the full study. See if I can find it. Here we go. Should be able to click on this and bring it up. Okay. Let's read a little bit of this study. Diverse forces can affect microbiota colonization and replacement, yet a paucity of foundational knowledge limits the ability to predict community response to perturbations and to control reprogramming. Perturbations such as fever or diarrhea are received as transient. However, temperature and osmolarity induce rapid and drastic changes in microbial physiology and hence may represent additional levers to aid rational community manipulation. Osmolality, the concentration of soluble particles in a solution, is a fundamental property affecting bacterial growth with a steady state growth rate of a number of species decreasing as the environmental osmolality is increased. Independent of osmolality identity, within a mammalian host, osmolality is tightly regulated in blood, although it varies in the intestine because of the absorption and secretion of luminal contents in water by epithelial cells. Osmotic diarrhea is a common medical condition that can arise from various situations, including lactose intolerance and celiac and pancreatic disease. In addition to natural causes, osmotic diarrhea also can be induced. Osmotic laxatives can exploit the inability of the epithelium to absorb either specific compounds, such as polyethylene glycol, so it kind of irritates the digestive tract and brings water in. That's what PEG does. Or excessive amounts of solutes, such as salts. These unabsorbed solutes osmotically draw water from the intestinal epithelium into the lumen, leading to increased intestinal motility and decreased stool consistency. Over-the-counter osmotic laxatives are prevalent in the industrialized world. Miralax, polyethylene glycol with an average molecular weight of 3,350 grams per mole, is the second leading digestive remedy in the United States. Wow, that's sad. Alongside prevalent and long-term use due to inhibition and dependence, osmotic laxatives are frequently abused by people with eating disorders. A reported 10 to 60% of patients with anorexia or bulimia nervosa use laxatives as a method of weight control, leading to chronic diarrhea. Despite widespread usage and occurrence, current understanding of the impact of osmotic laxatives and osmotic diarrhea on the gut microbiota is limited, hindering the development of therapeutic strategies. The community of microbes living in and on our bodies is intimately connected with diverse aspects of human biology, ranging from immune status to metabolic function. Shifts in the host diet can cause large-scale extinction of commensal species, successful introduction of novel species, or reintroduction of extinct species to ecological niches is aided by deep understanding of local habitat, microclimate, and other abiotic factors affecting the environment. The digestive tract compromises numerous dynamic and diverse environments created by microbial metabolism and by host attempts to regulate physical and chemical parameters such as temperature, pH, water content, and salt. In addition to substantial variation in these parameters along the healthy gut, most diseases cause dramatic changes in the host environment. Cancer and fever increase temperature, inflammatory bowel disease alters gut pH, and diarrhea triggers alternation in intestinal osmolality. Despite progress in describing gut microbiota composition across various hosts that provided insight into the effects of microbiota alteration on human health, the stability of this ecosystem in the face of inevitable environmental perturbations remains poorly understood. Previous studies have shown that increased gut motility can cause changes in microbiota membership, so the factors mediating these changes and the duration are unclear. Medically, osmotic diarrhea that lasts less than 14 days is considered an acute and self-limiting condition that does not cause long-lasting effects. See, when you get osmotic diarrhea, let's say that you get food poisoning, okay? So most cases of food poisoning, which are different from a foodborne illness. Now, the differences are, is food poisoning, you get sick off of the toxins that a microbe produces. Foodborne illness is when the microbe itself colonizes your digestive tract, replicates, and then causes dysbiosis. So there's a difference between food poisoning and a foodborne illness, okay? So let's say food poisoning, for example. You went to your favorite Chinese restaurant. They improperly stored the rice at the correct temperature, so Bacillus cereus grew, which is a gram-positive endospore-forming bacteria. Produced a lot of toxin. You went home, you ate the fried rice. You got what is known as fried rice syndrome, which is severe osmotic diarrhea for multiple days on end, and then you recover. Well, that toxin, what happened is it inflames the intestinal lining of the digestive tract and open up those gut barriers, allowing water to flow in. And doing so, that flushing, what the body's trying to do is for one, it's trying to flush the toxin out, okay? It's trying to flush the Bacillus cereus toxin out, okay, that you just ingested from that improperly prepared fried rice. And two, in doing so, when it flushes, okay, because that's what the mechanism of this osmotic laxative is. The body's either trying to flush the toxin out, or in this case, or it's trying to flush the foodborne illness out, like you see with vibri cholera ingestion. The toxin also causes osmotic effects like Bacillus cereus toxin does. However, the body's also trying to flush whatever microbes may try to colonize too. It's kind of like a defense approach. And it's not perfect by any means. It displaces a lot of bacteria, especially if one doesn't have an appendix. Why the appendix exists? It's not the appendix serves a purpose. You can live without having an appendix, obviously. Okay, like you can have one, but it's still not a vestigial organ. All right, it serves a purpose, and what the purpose serves is your body's microbiome, or a copy of it to some degree around the cecum, is in that appendix. And when you have the diarrhea and the body's flushing a lot of microbes out, the diarrhea doesn't go into the appendix, okay? The water doesn't go into the appendix. So the appendix is like a safe house for your microbiome. So bacteria and organisms will come out of that appendix after the diarrhea has ceased and start repopulating your colon. So the diarrhea that happens from an osmotic effect does serve a purpose when you're ill. The body's trying to save itself. However, it can cause problems. Obviously, like I said, it can cause dysbiosis. It can cause electrolyte imbalances, which can lead to death. If not corrected, it can lead to severe dehydration, which could lead to death if not corrected. It can lead to malnutrition. It can lead to weight loss. But though this serves a purpose, when you come in contact with a biological toxin or illness or microbe, it doesn't serve a purpose if you're taking Miralax. Because Miralax can trigger this same osmotic laxative diarrhea effect, but it's not serving the purpose like you have if you got Chinese fried rice food poisoning from Bacillus cereus. So therein lies the problem, is it hasn't really been much studied in people who take osmotic laxatives like Miralax, and it should be. Medical osmotic laxative lasts 14 days is considered acute and self-limiting condition that does not cause long-lasting effects. If so, then this condition provides the opportunity to understand gut microbiome resilience. However, the host microbe axis of potential long-term changes has not been adequately interrogated. In the study, we addressed numerous facets of host and microbial dynamics used during osmotic diarrhea. We used a common over-the-counter medical laxative to induce mild osmotic diarrhea in a mouse model harboring either a mouse, human, or 3-species microbiota. We determined key aspects of microbiota and host response to this perturbation, which dramatically shifts intestinal osmolality and stool motility, encompassing a wide range of state measurements to characterize resilience and health. Find the osmotic perturbation can lead to a new steady state in the microbiota, extinction of key taxa, and lasting changes in the adaptive immune response. Okay. And lasting changes to adaptive immune response. By contrast, certain host biological variables such as intestinal mucus and cytokines exhibit resilience after profound perturbation. We further show that increased osmolarity impairs in vitro growth of a key taxon that undergoes extinction in vivo. Lastly, we demonstrate that reduced sanitation that provides access to lost taxia restores original microbiome composition, preventing microbiome extinction during diarrhea. Huh. That's interesting. So, if you don't live in a completely sterile environment, you're using Lysol all the time, you're more likely to recover your microbiome after having diarrhea. Our study provides a powerful and generalizable framework for investigating microbiome resilience to gut perturbation. So let's read the discussion. In this study, we have shown that osmotic laxative can cause long-lasting perturbation to the gut microbiota. This is across different initial microbiota compositions. Our results suggest that the response of the microbiota to polyethylene glycol treatment is influenced by host-related factors such as colonic mucus loss and changes in immune system function, as well as host-independent growth inhibition due to change osmolality. The very abundant family S247 becomes effectively extinct during diarrhea and is not resilient to the treatment without external reseeding. Importantly, S247 extinction during osmotic diarrhea indicates the factors that dedicate a taxon's ability to flourish a steady state are discrete from the ability to persist during perturbation. This finding parallels the eradication of Clostridium difficile using a fecal microbiota transplant as a perturbation. We still do not know whether S247 actively reinforces its own existence, similar to C. diff toxin production. Furthermore, our data demonstrates that a taxon capable of expanding to high levels during perturbation, such as bacteroids, can be held at bay by the prevailing community. So pretty much, when you're looking at this study, here we go. Let's get to where we're going to talk about PEG. While PEG treatment significantly reshaped the microbiota, we found that the host was largely resilient to osmotic perturbation. The gut luminal and epithelial environment were grossly altered during mild osmotic diarrhea. Nonetheless, recovery ensued within days of the end of the perturbation. Thinning of the mucosal layer during the perturbation was correlated with a reduction of the mucus-consuming bacteria Akkermansia, because there's less mucus, and a decrease in the mucin glycoside hydrolyse expression, suggesting a microbiota-driven feedback mechanism aiding mucus resilience. Consistent with these observations, other studies have found that increased mucin utilization is correlated with decrease in mucin-degraded species. While the mucus recovered after cessation of PEG treatment, the transient decrease in the mucosal barrier function can have important implications for interaction between hosts and microbiota. Given our previous observation that the enteric pathogen Clostridium difficile is better able to colonize mice following PEG treatment. Wow, okay. Our current finding is highly possible infection-promoting side effects of common laxatives. So if you're in a hospital, you definitely don't want to take polyethylene glycol while possible, because it makes you more susceptible to Clostridium difficile. There's also antibiotics to make you more susceptible to getting a Clostridium difficile infection. So you probably won't combine polyethylene glycol with those antibiotics. And the antibiotics usually have warning labels. There's many of them. I can't list them all here. That are more likely to cause gram-positive Clostridium difficile infections. But yeah, that's interesting. So polyethylene glycol by itself can allow Clostridium difficile through the thinning of the mucosal barrier and layer, which a lot of your probiotic microbiome resides, a lot of your immune system resides within the gut, can lead to C. diff infections. Our results also indicate the immune system responds to PEG perturbation in both global and microbe-specific manners, and the response persists approximately 1 week after diarrhea. Results argue strongly against the perception that osmotic diarrhea has a minor impact on the host. Inflammatory diarrhea has long known to lead to an immune response, and here we demonstrate that the immune system is also altered by osmotic diarrhea. These unintended consequences of polyethylene glycol treatment are particularly important in light of the increased use of osmotic laxatives in pediatric populations, where the long-term health impact a polyethylene glycol-related immune response is currently unknown. Here we have employed a multi-scale, multi-prolonged methodology to determine the impact of osmotic diarrhea on the gut microbiota. We still don't fully comprehend the complex landscape of microbe fitness in the gut in simplified in vitro experiments, which likely aid in teasing apart host-independent effects related to osmolarity changes. Species-dependent sensitivity to increasing osmolality indicates the simple biophysical constraints may shape the gut community response. As phages rely on host growth conditions to infect bacteria, the disrupted environment is likely to affect their invasion and therefore impact microbiota membership. In support of this hypothesis, we observe that viruses indeed undergo distinct dynamical patterns during PEG treatment. Wow, okay. So there are many unknown drivers of community membership during perturbations. On short time scales, the response of bacterial cells to osmotic shocks can affect growth rate. It may set an initial benchmark for microbiota survival. Furthermore, as intestinal motility increases and mucus is depleted, adhesion of bacteria to surface and their ability to colonize crypts may play an important role in maintaining microbial gut residence in the face of large-scale perturbations such as diarrhea. Lastly, a major component of adaptation to a dysbiotic environment is the ability to survive the host's immune response, hence is key to ensuring long-term survival. As the microbiota is increasingly appreciated as an essential part of our health, translating these key insights will be essential for generating novel probiotic strategies that address the unintended consequences of osmotic laxative use. More generally, an improved understanding of the connections between the physiochemical environment and microbial composition and function is likely to increase the success rate of diverse microbiota targeted therapeutic approaches. So yeah, you definitely want to avoid the use of Miralax, especially if you're in the hospital, especially if you're susceptible to Clostridium difficile. I've had it in the past. All right, everybody, that's it. Here at Fix Your Gut, we do not recommend the use of Miralax as a laxative, an osmotic laxative. So there are safer osmotic laxatives, in my opinion, like vitamin C or magnesium. However, you still have to be careful with their uses too as well. If you're taking an osmotic laxative and causes you to have diarrhea, you're taking too much of it. Likely, you need to reduce your dosage.